Hi everybody, it's Ben. So today we're going to do something fun. We're going to discuss the lyrics Palimpsest by Protest the Hero, written by Rody Walker. That's a mouthful. Now, Protest the Hero is a metal band, a technical metal band from Canada. They've been on the scene for like ever. I've been listening to this in high school, so they hold a very special place in my heart. Now, this album just dropped right before. It was going to be on Juneteenth actually, but they dropped it right before that so they won't coincide with the holiday. And this album holds a very interesting place that I want to serve two discussion points about. The first half is going to be the band talking about the album and a little bit of the band history. And the second half will be individual songs that I find are really standout moments in the album. So, Protest the Hero, Canadian band, been around for forever. The thing that makes this album really special is that they're talking about America, and they're talking about American politics in particular in this album. Now, that brings up an interesting discussion, and I heard Rody Walker talk about it in an interview where he said, oftentimes, and I agree with this, Americans often feel like, why are you talking about our country? Why don't you talk about your country? And he said this to the effect that American politics affect everybody, even Canada. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about our standard with a lot of programs that even now that we're pulling out of, like the WHO, TPP, the Paris Accords and whatnot. Those all have effects all over the country, just are not isolated to just American and American policies. There is a stipulation there where, other countries can talk about us because we are number one. But on another aspect of it, and an important aspect I want to talk about from a literary point is people from one country talking about the culture or the politics of another country. Well, I developed a theory about this, it kind of solidified when I read Ryu Murakami's book Into the Misa, which I'll probably do a review on later on this channel also. Where my theory is that if you want to really criticize a country, talk about the negatives of the culture and the politics in that country, you really first have to develop a love and understanding for the country. And that's where I feel like it's important to talk about this album as well, because you can tell Rody really has a love for America. With that love, I mean that he talks a lot about aspects of American history that I didn't even know about personally. Now let's take a step back and just talk about Rody Walker as a person. He is the band's singer, but he has not been the band's lyricist. He didn't go to until the fourth or third length album, Scurrilous. Scurrilous is when he really started writing the lyrics, because the previous lyricist, Arif, he decided like, hey, I don't want to write stupid metal music anymore, if I remember that correctly. So Rody Walker was thrust into the role, and his first excursion on that, in all fairness, it was decent. Like, it was a little rough around the edges in some parts. Then in Volition, he did a pretty good job. But this album, I really feel like he shined as a lyricist. I really feel like this is where I look at him like, yeah, I wanna look at his lyrics more, because oftentimes in metal music, the lyrics don't really matter that much. They're just a bunch of metaphors that are either cliche or so non-referential and independent to the artist that they don't really mean much to the average listener. And also sometimes to a degree it was like, well, the lyrics are open and they're meant to be interpreted by anything, which I appreciated in high school, but now as an adult, I just kind of see that as bullcrap. So, but Rody does a really great job of, first passing, it's like, oh yeah, these, decent metal lyrics, but when you really look into it, you're like, oh, he's referring to stuff that I didn't even know about, that stuff that I learned about. For example, we just topics that Americans typically know, like the genocide of the Indians, that's not American, but the Led Zeppelin, Amelia Earhart, John Dillinger, and Song Soliloquy, he talks about his accomplice, Babyface Nelson, which I had no idea who he was referencing in that song. And also, just to give credit where it's due, Genius helped me with some little stuff that I missed when I combed over the lyrics. But he also talks about stuff like the molasses factory spilling out and killing some workers. He talks about, and I'm going to say her name up, but an actress who committed suicide by jumping off the H on the Hollywood building. Rody Walker criticizing America is how an American would criticize America, in the sense that they would write about history and they'd write about core issues and tenets of the American society, like corporations, corporations being unchecked and being so big, but also to the point where they can skip regulations and where they kill workers. I feel that's a very American aspect. An issue that's even, today, if we look at stuff like Amazon and other aspects, is like fame and individuals in America who, got messed up by the system, the institution of America, not just, and multiple different institutions, whether it be the prison system with John Dillinger and his partner, which I didn't know about, but they were constantly in and out of prison throughout life. Well, not John Dillinger, he was in there for multiple years out of a harsh charge of only $50, which I never knew about. I stopped that John Dillinger's history off the Dillinger escape plan, and that he was a prisoner who escaped, and that's it. Or even to the point of the actress again, I'm going to put a name at the bottom, and how, she was in the Hollywood system, and that caused herself to commit suicide. Again, this is how an American would criticize American institutions. Commenting on this is also commenting on how great America can be, how our innovation has brought us to be the top in the world as well, and how much potential American has. Kind of like what Thomas Pynchon talks about in Mason and Dixon, where he says like, this is the only place that we shouldn't have seen slaves, but we did. And, just commenting how the America had all this potential, but we kind of squandered it by going to a lot of the old world norms. And Rody Walker just does a really great job of this. So I feel like with this album, even though it's an outside person commenting on American culture, it's really well done. It's beautiful, and you can tell he really was invested in the writing process of this album and the research. So, just top notch to that. And now let's get into the actual lyrics a little bit as well. I'm going to just choose 3 standout songs where I really feel the lyrics, not only just from a referential point, but also from like an emotional point, just really resonate and culminate together really well. So the first song we're going to talk about is From the Sky, which is about a Led Zeppelin crashing. Now, the parts of the song I want to address are 2 parts. Fireball and tower conceal a swastika, which might have served to sour our desired erotica. A completely overlooked detail, a mission is deception, retract denied by the world, emblazoned on the rudders, a placid on the tail, might have caught the eye of the world. So, I didn't realize this, and this is thanks to Genius, but the Led Zeppelin had a swastika on the tail that was covered up by the fire. And what that did is that it really changed the narrative of the Zeppelin crashing, one from domination and rule of the Nazis to one of aeronautical failure and the tragedy of that. Also, I'm going to be doing a review on Plot Against America. Aviation and Nazism kind of have some parallels together, like 2 peas in a pod with Charles Lindbergh. But bringing that, because it could have been just an average metal singer would just talk about the crash of the Zeppelin and just how crazy that is. But Rody kind of gets the issue like, hey, let's not forget, we kind of appropriated this for a different meaning. This was meant to show the dominance of the Nazis, and we should not forget about that. Another piece of lyrics which comes at the ending of the song, which is probably one of the most beautiful points in the album, is so take my picture, I'm decomposing, make it a solemn silhouette, because this time is no different. It might help you not forget my feeble voice. And it goes on from there. And what's really beautiful about this part, when it just goes into that slow interlude with just the piano and his vocals, is I really feel like this also marks a point of maturity for him, where he's able to have that reflection that you might not have with younger singers, and that the reflection of how you will view this event in old age, how you can't forget about it, and how these mementos just keep these memories going, and how the pain never really subsides, and how you have to sometimes live with that on a day-to-day, and your thoughts just racing at night. And it's just such a beautiful, reflective passage that, again, I feel like a younger singer would handle in a totally different way. They might just talk about more of the moment of the explosion and the fire rebuilding, and Rody's talking about how it affects us, and how, like he says, words are just when the images are in our collective memory, and how these images, impact us and become part of the zeitgeist, and we can understand the collective pain of that moment through these pictures, and not only the pictures for everybody, but for those individuals who had to witness the crash as well. And the next song I want to talk about is Canary. So Canary is really cool because it's actually a whole song about Amelia Earhart. Again, going to that theme of American innovation, and just what she tried to accomplish with crossing the Atlantic, I believe, and but also the failure of that as well. So part of the feminist ideology is women must pay for everything. They do get more glory than men for comparable tasks. Women must pay for everything. They also get more notoriety when they crash. Just kind of getting at the idea is that, there is that aspect when a woman does something, especially in that time period. We really have to look at it at that time period, like the early 1900s, where women's suffrage was just like 1921. But you just have to look at it too, like women had to kind of so much more obstacles. There's still that idea of essentialism, and in some places eugenics out there, where women are biologically inferior to men, even on a mental capacity. So for them to accomplish their task, like, oh, I can't believe they actually did it. They must be so great. Look, they passed like almost like surpassing all these disabilities. But at the same time, when they crash and they get more notoriety, because when men crash, typically men are seen most disposable in society. But there's also that tinge of the aspect of what Rody's trying to get at, that it's like almost like, see, I knew they couldn't do it. I knew she wouldn't be able to do this. But it's also refreshing just for a metal singer just to sing about something historical like that. If you're not too well with the metal scene, you really don't get a lot of that. So it was really cool just to hear almost like a short biopic of Amelia Earhart, because he also does this, like how she's named after her grandmother, her short hair, his sisters, and everything. Her stillborn sister before her as well. Now we're gonna get to the last song, which is actually one of my favorite songs on the album, and from a lyrical standpoint, my favorite song. I think this one has the most you can sink your teeth into, and this was the song where the more I combed over it, the more I'm like, this is so cool. And this is about a Hollywood actress. I'm put the name at the bottom because I just can't pronounce it, but it's about her suicide, and she jumped off the Hollywood H at the age of 24, and just some interesting things I just noticed, thanks again to Genius, was that with that her jumping off the H, the song starts off with a lot of alliteration with H. So the hapless hills of Hollywood hide half heartfelt happiness, a hardened heroine hangs her head. Really cool part is that he takes a turn of phrase that's cliche, and he combines two different ones to kind of get at a state of mind. So a penny for your thoughts, a quarter for the show, the truth will turn to rot whichever way the wind blows. Obviously, a penny of your thoughts, what are you thinking? But a quarter for the show, and this is kind of still shown today. People really care less about what's going on about the current mental health of individuals, and get more interested and emboldened once the individual dies. Being her suicide and her death, and all the media coverage that came after it, so she got more attention from that rather than when she was suffering from her mental disabilities. And the truth she'll turn to rot. At first I was like, okay, but then I realized, like, oh, he's talking about the body, because whichever way the wind blows. So whenever the way the wind blows, you're gonna smell her body, which is the truth. And kind of like the truth of like which one, the penny for the thought or the quarter for the show. Obviously the quarter for the show was chosen. And then a handbag on some women's shoes hidden on the forest floor, discovered by a hiker on the hill, haphazardly hanging out, was a self-destruction, and her handwritten history. So in real life, she left her handbag in the forest, and a traveler, somebody just walking around, found it. And in that note, and it's a really powerful moment, is, I'm afraid I'm a coward, I'm sorry for everything. And he says, yeah, but but for Rody to really include that in a way that doesn't feel forced, and it's just that a part where he just kind of alters the melody a little bit on the second time, so it just sounds, even though it's an upbeat song, it just sounds a little sad. It's a really powerful moment, and for a song about her, for him to choose to just belt out those lyrics, just to scream it out in the song, he does a really great job where it doesn't feel exploitative. It doesn't feel like, oh, look at this woman's death, I'm gonna use a suicide note, like you might find in some metal songs where like they say the lyrics, like the suicide or the death, like or the serial killer's note right before the song. It's like, okay, buddy, it's not offensive, but it's just a little exploitative. But this one, you don't get that feeling at all. It's none of that. And I think just being the theme of the song is that nobody was looking after her, nobody really cared about her until she died, really helps it not feel that way. And the next part, it's 45 feet from here to there, it's 45 feet through the air. It's 45 feet from bliss to despair, only 45 feet through the air. That's a really cool lyric because when I typed in 45 feet, that's actually the distance. I think I saw one thing said 50 feet as well, but that's actually the distance from the height which, if you jump from, will be enough to kill you because you'd reach enough velocity. And that's the height of like the Hollywood sign as well. It was just enough to kill her. And just obviously the lyrics from bliss to despair, you can figure that one out. The world rushes past and is softly obscured by the quiet stillness of death. Take from me this body, it's all that I have left. Floating effortlessly, the scent of gardenias in the air, a veil of masks her face, with short blonde hair. Just very, very beautiful and powerful imagery of her suicide, with again, not showing it to be exploitive. Roddy's not reveling like, oh, look at this chick killing herself or anything. It's really showing of almost that sense of relief. Oh, that sense of, I'm finally getting away from taking me this body, it's all I have left. Your mental state is so far gone that it's so painful just to be alive that her body is only the functioning thing she has. So just, why not take it away? And then the scent of gardenias in the air, her soft blonde hair just flowing through the wind. Gardenias, which is the name of the song, being a perfume, and, jumping through the air and just that perforating the nighttime air. And it's even though it's such an upbeat song, it's really a somber lyrics, but it's just a really beautiful reflection of what her last moments would have been like. And this song, again, like I have to say, it's the strongest song of the album, and it just really shows Rody's growth into a lyricist. And I really look forward to seeing what he has to write later in 7 years. But this album just feels like you can tell the big difference from when they were in their 20s and now that they're in his 30s, and he's married and a father now, and how he's just able to be a lot more reflective with age. It's not about the intensity of the moment, like this is happening to me now, that you see in a lot of songs, it's like, oh, it's killing me, like these tears don't fall, they crash around me or something. It's like, no, it's about how three aspects: the state of the person at the time, how it's seen from others, and how it's viewed upon in the future as well. And it just reflections that you don't get in younger authors who are just more about the immediacy of the moment. So that was my review of Palimpsest. If you want me to go more into history of the writing style of Protest here, I'd be happy to. If there's any bands you want me to review for lyrics, I'd be happy to. Hopefully it's a band that I like. I might do Horse the Band. Nathan is actually a really good lyricist in that one. But unfortunately, again, a lot of metal bands are just full of cliches and stuff you can't sink your teeth into. But if any of these lyrics interest you, just know it's a great album as well. Every song feels like the final song on the album. So every song feels like Skies for them, or a Plate Full of Our Dead. If you know their discography, you will know about that also. But yeah, definitely check out Protest the Hero and check out Palimpsest. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.